If everyone's thinking alike, then someone isn't thinking, is a quote by George Patton that really got me wondering about groupthink. Groupthink is when people strive for consensus in a group, and in many cases, people will set aside their own personal beliefs or adopt the opinion of the rest of the group. When groupthink occurs, people who are opposed to the decision will remain quiet rather than disrupting the uniformity of the crowd. In this day and age, a real-life example would be from two different perspectives. One, on the right, people will criticize the people who blindly follow President Donald Trump, who hang on every word he says without questioning him. On the left side, it can be argued that the Democrats who blindly follow House Speaker Nancy Pelosi are doing the same thing. In both situations, it is a matter of groupthink, in that the masses in which they are supported are designated leader or blindly following without question. When I first learned of the term groupthink, I just thought about basic situations where small decisions are needed in a group setting where the repercussions aren't major. Unfortunately, there have been many cases in history where groupthink has played a part and it has created a negative output. One of the major events in U.S. history that comes to mind is the Salem witch trials. The villagers in Salem were Puritans whom were tightly knit together by their religious beliefs, including the fear of the devil. The villagers were leaning on each other for support and did not trust outsiders at the time of the religious convictions, recent attacks by Native Americans, and tensions of the wealthy people of Salem. At the time of the Salem witch trials, the leader was Reverend Samuel Parris, who ruled strictly, greedy, and was not the type of person who would allow people to speak their mind. During the trial process, some of the accused women were questioned and thought to have confessed, which allowed for groupthink to emerge. The beliefs of the town members contributed to the censorship and pressure to conform, especially in women. The pressure to conform and limit to a personal beliefs played a significant role because if someone spoke their mind, they accused her of being a witch. Unfortunately, in this case, groupthink took more than 20 lives and more than 200 people were accused of practicing witchcraft between the year 1692 and 1693. Think about this, a mere 70 years before. The Pilgrims landed in Plymouth and built a colony, based on individual thought and input and working in tandem. The Pilgrims were not only able to work with each other, but with the Native Americans. If their mindset was one of groupthink, there would have been chaos and disaster. Groupthink still occurs today and it is important to be able to identify groupthink and be able to avoid it when it's occurring. The symptoms of groupthink can include lead members of the group are overly optimistic and engage in risk-taking. The lead members will ignore moral problems and the consequences of individual and group actions. Rationalization will occur, which prevents members from reconsidering beliefs and makes them ignore warning signs. Lead members of the group will ignore members who oppose or challenge the group ideas. People with doubts will hide their fears because of self-censorship. Members of the group will act as censors to hide problematic information within the group. Lead members believe that everyone is in agreement and feels the same way as them, and there is direct pressure to conform on members of the group who have posed questions. Conformity is not necessarily a bad or negative thing or a bad offshoot of groupthink. Looking back in the 1960s, the people who protested the Vietnam War had several leaders who they followed. However, they had their own minds made up on it. On the other hand, people accused the patriotic Americans who went to fight on behalf of the American people, be it forced, volunteered, or pressured into participating in groupthink, had long-lasting effects on their lives. The people that followed Martin Luther King could be viewed as groupthink because they agreed with his principles, but it was an open-minded thought process that differentiated this between groupthink and open-mindedness. Individuals' thought came into play in both situations. It is also important to understand the steps that groups can take to minimize groupthink. Some of these ideas include: initially, the leader of the group should avoid stating their opinions or preferences when assigning tasks. Give people time to come up with their own ideas first. Assign at least one individual to take the role of devil's advocate. Discuss the group's ideas with an outside member in order to get impartial opinions. Encourage group members to remain critical. Don't discourage dissent or challenges to the prevailing opinion. And leaders should be absent from many of the group meetings to avoid overly influencing decisions. When Tesla had problems with their production facility, Elon Musk, the CEO of the company, decided he did not want to hear what anyone else of the company had to say, and he made his own decisions. This led to mass turmoil within the organization, people working 18-hour days and still no improvement in productivity. Had he solicited opinions of other sides, he may have found an answer to the problem from the people who were actually involved in the groundwork. When Bernie Madoff was exposed of fraud with his $65 billion Ponzi scheme, which ultimately collapsed under his own weight, it did so in large part because not only did he not seek the opinions of others, he refused to hear anything from the people who could have helped him save him from himself. Instead, he went to jail, his two sons killed themselves, and not only his life was ruined, but countless other people's lives were ruined as well. This was the ultimate case of groupthink gone bad. Groupthink occurs when someone proposes an idea that you think is poor, but everyone in the group agrees with the person who suggested the idea, and the group wants to pursue the course of action. In many cases, people will just go with the majority, then disrupt the harmony of the group because fear of members of the group rejecting them. Think about this. You're in a meeting, you work at a tech company, and somebody says we have a problem with our app. Someone suggests we spend $10 million to solve it, and let's go to California wine country to talk about it, and nobody says why are we spending that kind of money and going to a luxurious place when we should be focusing on the problem, breaking it down, and assigning certain people responsibilities. Believe me, I read about this in tech companies spending countless amounts of money that could be better spent solving the problems than supposable talking solving of the problem. Let me finish on this note by painting you a picture. I'm going to tell you that everyone here today will get $1 million if they pledge allegiance to everything I just said and admit publicly that I can do no wrong. Do you really want to live in a world like that, where groupthink overcomes common sense? I hope not, because I don't have the money to pay you. Thank you.